Sweet. Let's try. Thank you guys for those notes. I appreciate that. We had to correct a couple things here. For whatever reason, we are not able to go on Instagram, so it's being a bitch. Anyway, welcome to the show. My name is Rafa Esparza. I host this show called The Grappling Hour. We're here to talk about the UFC making their long-awaited debut in the world of professional jiu-jitsu with the premiere of their Ultimate Grappler series, otherwise known as The Road to UFC BJJ, the title. Episode 1. It's not entirely correct, but you know what? Who cares? It's too many words. Let's be very honest. Let's just say it's episode 1 of a series that we're very excited and quite frankly asked for 10 years ago. So it's been a minute that we've been asking for this, and it begs the question, what does it feel like now that we actually can see it and feel this thing? I'll put it out to the people who are in the comment section. What did you think about this first episode? I clearly have thoughts, enough to actually go on air and start airing them publicly. And, with some reservations here, I'm sure you know, that only I could have. But yes, it has been very fun to see the UFC create their own brand and now starting to push that. Because for me, I've been interested to see what they were going to do. For years, we've been saying, let's get an Ultimate Fighter. Let's see what it's going to look like. The UFC, if they just had an investment in jiu-jitsu. And then Dana White, after all these years, says, we're going to put $10 to $12 million worth of money into this thing. And if you watch the first episode, you're probably wondering, when does that start? Did it start with the Taco Bowl? We'll get to that in a second. But first, I would love to hear your responses, your thoughts to the very first episode, because it looks like we're going to have a few. Just to give you the primer, there's 8 people and 8 people. They have 2 different weight classes, and then the winner of those tournaments will become the new champion of UFC BJJ in those divisions at UFC BJJ 1. To be held on June 25th, which is pretty good for International Fight Week. So we're excited about that-ish. We'll see what's happening there. But lo and behold, there will be a third title at stake, and that is between Mikey Musumeci and his friend, who we've learned is named Harrison. Because I didn't necessarily know that going in. I saw it spelled a certain way, and I wasn't quite confident that I was going to say his name right at any given moment or time. But nonetheless, I think by and large, these are good things. I'm not convinced that we necessarily saw the best or the worst part of at all television. And it was good exposure for us to see a lot of our friends on the television. So there was that. So yes, I will be taking your thoughts as I present to you some thoughts of my own, but I would love it if you guys in the comment section can tell us what you're thinking and what you're feeling, because that's how this works. It's a good two-way relationship here, people. But you know what? Let's not take any more time. Let's show you what we have presented here and gotten ready for your viewing and entertaining, feelings? Thoughts? Nonetheless, here we go. Let's go ahead and open this up. The first thing that we wanted to present here is, of course, we got to see a lot of our friends on this episode of UFC BJJ. Elijah, a long stalwart of the PGF, makes his debut in here, and honestly, we don't even hear that much from him. You would think that he would be one of those people that they would be ushering in as a villain of sorts, a heel, because that's the role he has played in the world of the PGF. But now, this whole sweetheart version of Elijah, he's just happy to be there and break some people off. But that's not happening on this episode because we have a lot to establish. This episode was only 26 minutes, so they've got a lot of ground to cover. They've got 16 athletes, one coach you know, one coach you don't, and it takes on board with all of this stuff. Nonetheless, what is BJJ? And they literally spend a minute and a half going through the history of jiu-jitsu and how it relates to the UFC. You hear a little bit about Royce Gracie, and then bam, we're in the present. And yes, I'm so sorry. I still don't know who this IBJJF man that you put in front of us here. Because to me, even though you tell me these are the coaches, I'm just saying, I know Mikey. I've known him for years. Definitely recognizable name, brand, value. Harrison, no disrespect to you, sir. I just, you don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. I feel we're on equal ground here. It took me a minute to kind of figure out why they were going to pick him as a coach. Obviously, he has IBJJF accolades. They probably had to play flow grappling for some of those things. So you see him on podiums with medals being placed on his head. So you think, okay, this guy's kind of important. And, hey, listen, it's establishing a world that we're trying to get into. We don't know about this jiu-jitsu world. We still have our raised eyebrow. Can it exist? But before we even really get too far into the coaches, they do establish this. The bowl. The UFC BJJ bowl. What do we think about this? I have lovingly called it a taco bowl because it feels like something you put like a bunch of nachos on and you put on out as like an appetizer for people. Maybe there's some fajitas that are supposed to go on it. But nonetheless, the first, and I kid you not, 3 minutes of this show are every one of the competitors going inside and just saying, this is so sick. And if you were wondering at any point, is this taco bowl sick? Don't worry. The cast repeatedly tells you this is so sick. Not like somebody's producing them or told them it'd really be nice if you would go out there and say how sick this taco bowl is. Nonetheless, they do that. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. And we'll get into a little bit more of the conventions here. But nonetheless, yes, I did kind of grow very tired of how quickly we were establishing it. But it is something new. And I think that's where they've spent the bulk of the money, if I'm guessing. I don't even think it's on Mikey's salary. I think it's on the taco bowl. Which brings us back to the question marks of how did this coaching pair happen? Obviously there was talk of Gordon or Craig. We kind of are in need of it here. It's an awkward pairing because there's no friction, there's no drama. It's just, here they are, they're your coaches. And when you're introducing a world of jiu-jitsu to a lot of people who don't know who they are, if you don't recognize one of them outright, that's kind of a casting issue. I know more of the competitors than I do of Harrison. So it's not to say that he's not going to be good. I think that might be the upside is, what if he has a great match with Mikey? It can justify a lot. But in this particular case, you know what I mean? Like, iffy. So they spend that time on this. But I want to point one thing out to you here. If you're looking and paying close attention here to Dana White, this is the first time I've seen him with no cards in a long, long time, which just goes to show you how connected he is to this product. And if you see on the back of those no cards, it's not just one or two little big bullet points. They literally wrote out Dana the story that he needed to go, or he had to hit that many beats throughout that sort of thing that he was doing there that day. So he's reading it, and he's basically kind of connecting to these grapplers and just saying, like, I got to say something here. It's kind of crazy, you guys. Jiu-jitsu is a thing. And, like, it's a real thing. And if you got a black belt, you're a thing, too. So that is how we start kind of the things going on in this world. And it's kind of awkward. But then they say, hey, guess what? We're not going to do this anymore. We're going to have you guys go get evaluated. So these grapplers go off to the side. It makes you think that this is all done at a different time, but we'll come back to that. Nonetheless, they have different approaches. Mikey is going to roll with all of the competitors to see if they got a certain feel. And we start to get an essence of what the philosophy is between the two different sets of coaches. And it was here, once I started seeing Harrison start to speak, that I got a sense of what he's looking for in his team versus what Mikey's looking for which is kind of the beginnings of getting to know your coaches. But in actuality, I honestly think they really just wanted some dude that they could subtitle, because I think they kind of miss doing that. So we got a lot of subtitles here. The grappler evaluations don't go on for a ton of TV time, which doesn't tell you a ton either way, but that's probably a good thing, because we move right along into the next aspect, which is this. They come right back. So literally they come right back to the same coaches, this place again. So really what they likely did is they probably did what's called a stop down in TV. So they said, hey, you guys are going to go get grappler evaluated, and we'll see you in a few minutes. 2, 3, 4. That was a great few minutes that you guys spent over there. Wasn't that great? So the reason I say this is you just look at the clothes that they had. So either all of these grapplers went to go put on some rash guards, get all sweaty, and then put on their same street clothes. Just a little production trick. Nonetheless, still great that they went to go get to roll with Mikey. And for Harrison, his team, they were more so just rolling. And that's where they were supposedly getting evaluated. So it's here, as we're about to find out, that each of these grapplers has been ranked. So 1 through 8 in their divisions. Things get a little bit messy from this moment. But now we can start telling you who is on whom's team. So if you look at this over in the background right now, we'll go ahead and pop up who is on each other's teams here. Take a look at this. For Team Mikey, I have to say, some of these are friends. I think Davis is a very good snag there. Okay, let's look over at Harrison's team. Okay, so just keep this in mind. Let's look at Harrison's team. Keith Krikorian and Andrew Tackett. Pretty good. And then Johnny Grippo's on their team too. And Elijah and Andy. I'm not saying this is going to go down exactly how it's presented here, but let's look back at Mikey's team again, just to make sure we're not being disrespectful here. I'll say this, Isaac Doderline, I think, is criminally rated at number 8, which I couldn't quite understand fully. Maybe it's just because he hasn't been active, but that man's a pretty good jiu-jitsu grappler. Maybe it's because it's more in no-gi, and a lot of his accomplishments have been in gi. But he and Mikey are like the only Americans, aside from Lovato, to win the big dance in the IBJJF. So it's confusing. But nonetheless, that's, I guess, what came from the assessments if you just do a leap of logic, which that happens a bit here. But nonetheless, hey, Team Harrison, not bad. Kind of like that looking back at them again. It's a very strong team. I mean, you could make a quintet out of this team. We'll come back to these in a few minutes here. But nonetheless, very good stuff. It's about this time, though, that we start to realize, oh, guess what? They get a house. And it's just referred to as the UFC BJJ house. Sorry, guys. The Ultimate Fighter Mansion, those days are gone. Take a look at this house. The best that Airbnb can afford at a discounted price. They do have a pool, so that is good. That is kind of a stalwart staple of the Ultimate Fighter. But a little more sparse of settings. Almost akin to a dorm version of the Ultimate Fighter Mansion, which I thought they got rid of. I'm not quite sure exactly what happened to that place, but I thought they ended up getting rid of it. So the only thing that's really weird, if I can go back to this whole performance assessment sort of thing before I come back to the house again, when the coaches do their assessment, like the weirdest part is they both just say, I want to win. Like that is the basic gist of what they're saying. It's just like, I came here to win. Good, I hope so. So that'll come back a little bit later. But yes, that is the affordable Airbnb place that they have. Otherwise known as the UFC BJJ house, which I feel like we could have done a better job in terms of naming that one. I digress. One other thing I kind of want to bring in here is, as you look at it, it's not much there, but they do have in the very backdrop the brackets for who's fighting whom and when, which is a thing that we will come back to a little bit later. But nonetheless, the background of both of these gentlemen's two competitors on the docket are Aaron Wilson, and they actually do a good job telling Aaron's story. I've interviewed him a couple times, and he's a very nice guy, good competitor. It is an uphill battle because he's going up against Tackett, Andrew Tackett, easily one of the favorites in this show. So I just thought this was such a weird thing that they were promoting, like to have a GoPro angle on the scale. I gotta tell you, is it just to get the abs? Because it was curved up, like literally like this. So I didn't quite understand why we wanted to get that shot, but it is what it is. So they do that. They go to the weigh-in, but it's here, the emergence of the first character on the show with charisma, and it's saying a lot because it wasn't a cast member. It was actually the dude weighing in them. Because I couldn't tell if he was doing the fake chew of gum like a Tina Fey in Date Night the movie. See it if you haven't. But I was the first guy who had presence in the show that I thought, I don't know, I want to hear more about weigh-in, dude. What's he do? Does he like this? Does he like a very well-run weigh-in? Like, what is he all about? But the minute it looked like he was maybe chewing gum or maybe not, I thought, good character work here, sir. So weigh-in, dude, we hope to see more of you this season. A little bit later, though, this is where I think things start to fall apart because Mikey Musumeci starts giving out advice to the guys. And the advice is just, if you want to win, just win. Like, he's shouting out Nike slogans at these people, being like, if it's there, you just have to take it. That's what you do. If you want to win, you just have to take it. Like, a lot of the times we watch this because we're interested to see what the coach's involvement is. So you want to see DC coach. How does DC coach? Here, if this is the kind of preview of what's going to happen, oh man, I'm nervous. Because that to me is not necessarily the winning factor, I think, that you have in a big situation like this. Nonetheless, one thing I did want to bring photo of Aaron. And Aaron, I apologize. This is a shitty photo, but I was not about to get a second one. These guys all got like Octagon UFC BJJ necklaces, and they make sure to keep popping it out in front if they ever take off their shirt or put on a rash guard. It is wild to see. And it's like a small little detail. And if I got one too, I probably would be wearing it very proudly. But it is very interesting to see that it's a little idol that's happening. I couldn't tell if you wear it, if you're going, or why you wear it, or if they just tell you to put it on display. I wondered if it's going to be like a belt that they sell when the UFC sells the BMF belts, which, by the way, let's take a little side journey here. Last time when I would do this on the show with Kevin Phillips for Verbal Tap, we would look up how much the UFC BMF belt would cost. Oh boy, it's not great. The replica belt has gone from $800 to $850. So it has actually gone up in price. Eesh. Inflation be a bitch, y'all. What is that? Like, I still can't believe that's a thing. Somebody's paying for it, I think. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to justify a price range like that. But it is what it is. Eek. But I digress even more. It just makes me laugh that people buy it. People buy pro wrestling belts as well, but I kind of venture a bet to say that those are actually much cooler than whatever they put this out as. All right, let's get back to where we were on this. Sorry, Aaron. It's really funny to me. All right. We've already skipped ahead right now. I'll come back to this in a second. Aaron doesn't win. Andrew Tackett does Andrew Tackett things. Very impressive. He's able to secure the finish in probably about a minute and a half. Not a big surprise. Aaron's a game competitor. Tackett is just one of those people who always delivers. And I'll get more into the background of it, but now we start to get preview of things that are yet to come on the show. Now, the reason why we put up this photo of somebody walking through a door, we'll get to this in a second, but in terms of the match itself, one thing that really stuck out to me was you did get to hear Keith Krikorian coaching during it, and I thought that was pretty cool. Hearing a buddy really go out of his way to coach his friends, I thought, of course, upstanding young stalwart Keith Krikorian doing that. And with that in mind, I thought I would break this down into some pros and in some cons. Pro, it is mercifully 26 minutes. The UFC Ultimate Fighter, normally about 43, 45 minutes. Because they used to do them with commercials. I'm not sure if they've inched up to an hour now that they're on ESPN+. But you're in and out pretty quickly. That's a good thing. I think they had to edit these things within a heartbeat. Because that Mikey match was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago, and that was the only time they can do it, was recently. So I don't know what scheduling issues they run into it. So pro, 26 minutes. Pro, good talent pool. There are a lot of really good people in this. And, you know, for the most part, we're very excited to see a lot of these people. And yes, the casting for the Harrison, I don't know him very well. Maybe we'll get to know him a little bit better throughout the season. But I do have some questions here. So I'm going to put this over your way, and you guys can tell me what your thoughts and feelings are on this. But like one of the cast members, I can't put a finger on it, but I want to say that he looks like what would happen if Jared Leto's cousin just lived and resided only in Texas. But this gentleman right here, I also don't know too much about him. I just know he likes a cowboy hat and that he has very long hair. So looking forward to getting to know you, sir. I hope all is well. The other thing I wanted to bring up here is, listen, Tackett had one of the best kind of displays on there. But while we're talking casting, you know, these kids they're new. They're new to this world. And this is like one of their first big time TV experiences. So much so that when the good-natured young Tackett appears, he has no idea that he has giant pit stains. Like the rest of the rash guard, dry as hell. But those pit stains, remarkably noticeable there. And I have to make fun of him because now he's a character on TV. So what are we supposed to do here, friends? Listen, don't make it that easy for me, Andrew Tackett, which, by the way, still owes me an interview. We'll get to that a little bit later. But by and large, I would tell you this. Casting, I like. And even Kaivan, who I don't know personally, but obviously we all know his work from his social media clips. He seems like a very good-natured guy. I think he's there to lighten things up and try to make us laugh. It's a really uphill battle there. But the last good pro, before I get to all the cons, is this. And I think it's actually pretty important. And we showed it a few seconds earlier, but this door opening. That's it. This door opening is a huge pro because when they did that intercut of everybody walking through and opening up those doors like they're ultimate fighters, I cannot deny how cool that looks. And I like that for my friends. So I would say the 3 pros are good casting, mercifully 26 minutes, and that door. And honestly, that door itself might be the number 1. If I'm speaking just off the top of my mind, I feel like our guys getting to do that walkthrough and get that moment, perhaps the best part of the show. All right, you want it. You want to hear what the cons are. Con number 1. It feels like the Ultimate Fighter. Now, that's by design. It's supposed to feel like the Ultimate Fighter. We know that. That's exactly why it exists. And it's supposed to have a huge upside in that it's supposed to normalize it. The issue is it has the feel of the Ultimate Fighter, a show that's gone through 30 cycles. Again, we wish this on our show for Verbal Tap over 10 years ago. We were begging for this kind of attention then. And to get it now feels like a small inch of progress. The issue is it's now for a format that doesn't seem to suit jiu-jitsu. Why is that? Well, one thing that happens on The Ultimate Fighter is, and this is kind of a cliche thing that happens, a fighter says, I'm not going to quit, or I think I'm done with this. At the very end of this episode, it kind of falls into that trope when you see Aaron Wilson saying, I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm going to keep going. Like, a loss in jiu-jitsu happens all of the time. And yet we're treating it like this dude's evaluating his career when most of us would get smoked by Andrew Tackett in a heartbeat. And it's not necessarily even Aaron trying to tell you he's thinking about retiring, he's done with jiu-jitsu. It's just the way the show works. When somebody says it like that, you think, oh, they're done with jiu-jitsu now. And it's like, no, he's not even done with jiu-jitsu that day. That dude probably went back to the mats and later on started trying to correct what it was he was doing. But the cliche aspect of The Ultimate Fighter makes it feel like, uh-oh, is this dude done doing jiu-jitsu because this prodigy child beat the shit out of him in a minute and a half? Those of us who train know better, and it kind of plays up for some sad drama that isn't quite the same. Just respectfully speaking. Con, the rankings. What the fuck are these things? I just legitimately, when they did the rankings, it just made me think, why did we do an evaluation? What was any point of that? And the bigger part for me was when you had the coaches who started doing their picks, they would say, I want number 3. And so what they would do is they'd say, all right, great. Number 3, get on up here. Well, number 6, you're coming up here too because you go to the other team. So really, after they had already done the rankings, it's like half of the process of selecting. And maybe that's only because you could have 4 and 4 on the team, so there's only so many ways of kind of making these decisions. It's just kind of a weird way to not let the other person pick the next person they want to get. They just try to keep them paired. So really, the rankings were more important than the coaches deciding who, what, where, when, and why. Having said all of that, not to say it didn't have any implications, because look at how these teams stacked up. Look at this team. Take a second. Now look at this team. Stay here. Think about it. Jason Nolf, amazing emerging grappler. Not necessarily known for his jiu-jitsu yet, more for his wrestling. Could be something very helpful with a 3-5 by kind of minute round sort of format. Davis Asari, big upside, very big spoiler. Could be somebody who kills it in this format. Those are interesting people. I mean, Elijah is not on this team. He's on the other team. Yeah. And Nathan, we love. Absolutely that. And now we know what happened to Aaron Wilson. And you're looking at Kaivon, and I'm thinking like, yo, I think you're real funny, bud. But like, I'm concerned for you as a fellow jokester. If you surprise somebody, it will surprise me. And I don't know if it'll surprise you too. But so without the coaches being able to actually pick who's on their team, and there's too much of a component of this person's ranked here, so we're bringing this person on this side, there's a little bit too much for me in terms of a lack of what do they call those? It was, well, not a lack of interest. That's on a different level we'll get to next. But it's a lack of stakes of what you need to pick. So that, to me, yikes. Con 3. I have to be kind about how I say these things. The best people in jiu-jitsu tend to be so good they don't need a personality. The bulk of the people on this show are very good jiu-jitsu practitioners. Does that make sense to you guys? If not, most of the guys who are good at jiu-jitsu don't necessarily feel the need to have a persona or a personality. So what you're really getting on this show is not an exhibition of, wow, I'm an exciting grappler to watch, as they say it. It's what they do. And they are exciting grapplers, but their talking heads seem a little boring. For example, Andrew Tackett, not a bad person at all, but he's not going to say extremely controversial or super engaging things. A lot of it was just, I love my family and I like to train and I'm a pretty chill guy. It's true to who he is, but it's just not super interesting. And to me, I'm like, yo, let that dude's work be the body of work you see that makes you want to watch him again. You're not making a compelling case. Aaron had a great story that was really nice, but Aaron's also got a really good sense of humor. Like the times that I've talked with him, like there's a little bit more there that obviously you can get and bring out of him. But it was a little disappointing for me to see, man, I love a lot of these guys' jiu-jitsu games, but their personalities are not necessarily something I ever look at on Instagram. So that's a concern. On the Ultimate Fighter version of this, they're literally people who are casted for their nonsense. Not because they're great fighters, just because, yeah, all right, they seem like they're going to be silly, so we'll bring them on. I say that with love. The personalities are going to be an issue for this format. I think the 8 and 8 people you picked would be better suited for the Dana White's Contender Series, but that wasn't offered here. I think in this day and age, the Ultimate Fighter lives and breathes off of its casting, not even for its MMA talent, but more so for the casting in that we can relate to these characters and want to be with these characters. And that extends all the way to their coaching, where with Mikey, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to connect to him in any other way than, is he a good coach? And with Harrison, him playing soccer, at least with one clip, I was like, that's more interesting than anything else some of these guys are doing. So, said with love, you guys know I love you. It's a lot. So, there's that. Con, you need to watch this live, because I watched the replay to get some of these screenshots, and it took me about 2 times as long because they kept putting in ads. So even though I wanted to bring on screenshots like this that shows we might see Andy playing basketball against Tackett on this show, which begs the question, we need another sport to make us interesting. God damn it. Oh, God. It just doesn't feel right. Nonetheless, I had to watch it for so long after it finished doing the live play. On the live play, there were no commercials like I was embraced or finding on my side. But then you wait a few minutes and then you have to watch commercials. Yikes. Didn't love that. So nonetheless, it'll be fun to see Andy cross up Varela, and maybe they can add some drama with that. They also went into Capoeira for whatever reason. So Jared Leto's cousin kind of was there. It looked like a clip from the 1990s movie Only the Strong. That's the best I could do with this. Listen, there's not a ton to work with. And the previews didn't make it seem like you're going to miss a ton, if we're being honest here, except for this. And here's what I would say about how you can slow down the end of coming soon on this season of the Road to BJJ. There's only so many grapplers who have certain shapes and head and body. So you could start deducing who advances. They don't give away everything. And while we're on the subject, if you're Andrew Tackett, maybe don't put on your story that you're in Vegas right now. Because why would you be in Vegas? when there's the finale next Wednesday. Anyway, you can probably go through this and figure out somebody might have been injured, and you might have an idea of who got injured when they're carrying them out like this. And to the UFC's credit, when I saw a clip like this on the old Ultimate Fighter series, I thought that was indicative of somebody getting drunk. I don't think that's the case here. If it is, it'll be a very good swerve for the rest of us. But a lot of these very sweet nerds don't seem like they're going to get out of hand. But what if they do? Yeah, that one kind of blew to see. I also want to put this up here before I get to my next boo, which is this meme will live in infamy. I don't know what I need it, but I know it will come back in use in some way, shape, or form. And I look forward to using it when the time is appropriate. So for whatever it is that you're seeing here from Mikey, I think that's in reference to the person whose arm gets broken. So it is promising you at least one big moment like that on this show. So get excited for that. All right. The last part. Finally. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the coaches themselves. Actually, you know what? Let's bring this back up here for the coaches. I don't see the excitement yet. I don't know what they offer. I know Mikey is one of those notorious spends 12-hour grappler kind of a dudes. I know people who have trained with him. I've heard great things about how their games have progressed. They swear by it. They swear he's a nice guy. I believe them. On episode 1, the coaching, maybe it's just because it happens so quickly, and a lot of this is out of order. So what you see on the show doesn't necessarily mean it's how they shot it in terms of from start to finish. Sometimes you move the pieces around. The only thing that seems interesting about the first 2 episodes are you get exposure to Tackett and you get exposure to Keith. And those were both the number 1 seeds, and with good reason. So they definitely want to hook you by showing you their grappling. And next week, it looks like, or next week, tomorrow, they're just doing this all in 1.5 week. On the next episode, it looks like you get Keith Krikorian versus, I think it was Isaac Doederlein. That should be a fun match. I think there is reason to believe that Keith advances. If you watch the end of the little fast forward portion. So yeah, I just wonder if we brought on Mikey as a coach for more of using his social following. He's a recognizable name in the sport. Hearing him talk about violence is probably getting the exposure for the show in a way they want it to, even though people like Craig have taken zero time to stop and just put up a short little blurb that are like, this dude thinks violence is in jiu-jitsu and it's him pulling guard. Yeah, I see all points here. It's just, from what I could see in there, those slogans, if somebody tells you, if you want it, just take it, I don't necessarily think that makes you, it's signs of being a great coach. Let's put it this way, just from the way it shows on the show. It's akin to when Danaher used to say, just believe. And he would be making fun of these coaches who are like, you just got to believe, man. Like, they were very famous on that team for yelling out those things and saying, like, we're going to make fun of those people. So, yeah, that's my kind of face to the coaches so far. And I'm hoping maybe Harrison kind of is fun. Maybe that'll be a good redeeming arc for those of us who just don't know who he is. But, yeah, those are my initial notes. This is 2 times as long as the Ultimate Fighter, Grappler, Tug, UFC BJJ, the road to the title. But I argue, I don't think I'm any less charismatic than any of those people who talked on the thing. So them's the notes. Why don't we go ahead and just bring up a couple of little comments that you guys were able to put in. I appreciate you guys for watching live, and I thank you for that. I did see here a note that says, 25 minutes to get 30 seconds. So that brings up a good point, Isaac, which is that the UFC understood exactly what the hook of that episode was, and that's Andrew Tackett submitting Aaron Wilson. It's already on their channels. They don't have time to let this thing gestate because they want to get you in their big week next week. I already saw that clip. There is not really a build. They were already spoiling it. I think they just already want to get ahead of it because they know once this thing hits 9:30 a.m. in the morning here for us on Best Coast time, spoiler already done. So you might as well get it out there. But really the hook of that show was those 30 seconds. Yeah. So once they put it up, I think they knew that was the meat and potatoes. Let's just do a quick look here. Let's look at the UFC. I just want to see if they have Andrew Tackett. They have the teams and the photos. They have a photo of Tackett and a video of Tackett. So they do have some. And the other big thing they had up there was Alex Pereira telling you guys to watch that show. And that actually isn't a bad attempt to get people in. I think actually having Alex Pereira look at you and be like, you guys better watch this or I'll chama you in the face. I think that's all he says. He's a Pokemon to me, honestly. Literally every excuse that man gets to say that phrase, he does. And it says, I can't imagine the sheep herding that went on for that shot. Yeah, I don't disagree with you for that. I think you were referring to one of the earlier photos we put up, and it says, I want to hear your boos. You've heard them. I don't know that they're far off from anybody else's. So why don't we do this right now? We're going to put this to a close, but before I close this, there's one thing I did want to bring up, which is the numbers that this did. So one thing that I looked at was immediately after the show was done, maybe about 20 minutes after it finished airing at 9 a.m. I took a screenshot of what the views were, and they've already moved on to showing other things on their main page. But the UFC BJJ Road to the Title Episode 1 has 106,000 views, which is not bad. YouTube is not quite the same as a Nielsen rating, but that's better. And there are about 626 people waiting. I don't know why they're waiting. It's not airing till tomorrow at 9 a.m. But they're in the waiting room. So that has a little bit of buzzed interest. So it may mean that there are some people who will have less notes about this than us. And to me, when I see these things, I deeply hope that we move this forward. I just feel it's pretty important to let the people know. I think there are better ways the UFC could be spending their money. And I see this from Kevin Martinez. Raf, I love you. You've helped me so much in my life. Well, that's very nice of you, Kevin Martinez. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is rough. It was a tough episode where at the end of it, Craig Jones didn't waste any time. And in fact, I wonder if he's still the top comment because his comment, it was pretty deadly. This is a dude. Oh, you know what? Honestly, guys, I've got the good comments. Why don't we do some quick gallery moments? On the show, the bullpen, whenever we do a gallery comment, it means that we have basically scrolled the internet to find you the best comments possible. This is the most positive thing I think we could say. This is already 100 times better than Power Slap. You know what? That's the positive. That's what we pulled out of this one. Thank you, Ness Carroll. You are absolutely correct. And actually, I think they deleted Craig's comment. Wow. I think that might be the case. They might have actually deleted what Craig said. But Craig wasn't necessarily super wrong earlier today. He had a fairly funny comment where he said, oof, that was rough. I thought it was going to be a competition, but now I see we're okay. Much love and respect to Tackett, though. I'll look through and see if that's the case. I see some familiar faces in here, though. A lot of people trying to be positive, so that means maybe they are. Asked this, and I think that's interesting. Not too dissimilar to what some, but they're asking and pleading with the UFC to please do Muay Thai, please. I mean, yeah, I could see that. I think the weird part is we have so much momentum. I've seen good numbers for Muay Thai, honestly. I think the real thing is if you can draw those numbers in the way that they are drawing them for like even like a WCK show I saw did like 150K. That's pretty good numbers. But I think we have good numbers in jiu-jitsu that are indicative of us continuing to grow the sport. I just feel like we have to fix some things in our house before we really start going too far in. But yes, this was the Craig Jones quotation that he put up. And it says, "For a second, I was worried we had competition. God, that was awful. Much love to Tackett respectfully." So I didn't delete it, and I forgot I didn't actually leave a like on it. So I just did that right now. Yeah. It's so weird. It says, "I think adding comments during the fight can help people really understand how intricate and complex jiu-jitsu really is and might get more views." See, the problem is you start adding comments, it doesn't really go in the Ultimate Fighter format. On the Ultimate Fighter, there's no real like commentator. You have more talking heads that narrate the action that you've already seen. So, yeah. I also want to put this out here. Oh God, that's pretty funny. Though the production is great and they spell production wrong, this is horrible for BJJ. See, I'm not there. I don't think this is horrible for BJJ. I just think it's maybe a slight divergence. Their issue is exclusive contracts and low athlete pay. I argue pay in any shape and form is good for the athletes in a very struggling sport. So there be that. But one criticism, though, using their ranks makes the team selection phase weird. That's what I'm saying. Listen, I'm glad we're on the same page here. Because really, you make like 2 picks. And then you're like, well, that's my team. Womp womp. Hopefully it was good. Anyway, friends, here's what we're going to do for the rest of the week. I am going to take a little siesta now, but tomorrow I'll be back with episode 2. We'll do some breakdowns, talk about the larger themes. I in my way, I do want to support this, but you know, we got to do it the way that we do it, which is we'll review it, we'll write some jokes, and hopefully we'll all get some good yucks out of this. But I think that's going to do it for us here today. Don't forget to like us, and you know, if you enjoyed the show, like, comment, subscribe. I have interviews with almost, I want to say, half of this cast. A lot of them are homies. We wish them well. So be sure to check it here so that you can always see who the next iteration of stars are. Because I got news for you guys. I'm usually the first interview for most of these people. Good track record of it. But yeah, come back tomorrow. We'll do another one of these and we'll walk through what happens on that episode. I believe it's Keith Krikorian up next. And Keith is a longtime friend of the show. So we'll definitely have some fun at that expense. But ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Grappling Hour. If you enjoy this, check us out on patreon.com/grappling hour. And be sure to visit us back here tomorrow to find out more info, more discussion on the next episode of, I was going to call it The Ultimate Grappler, but it's not Tug. It's UFC BJJ, Road to the Title, Episode 2. All right. Thanks much. We'll see you next time. Oh, wait. I have to say the real one. That's how you can tell this is new. Like, we tried a new thing today, so I normally have a catchphrase if you're not here that I say at the end.